Welcome to the Pharmacy Inspection Podcast, powered by LyceumCE.com, where we discuss topics related to both sterile and non-sterile compounding pharmacy in an effort to promote compliance and increase quality. Please welcome your hosts, Brian Prince and Seth DePasquale.
Hi everyone, this is Seth DePasquale, board certified sterile compounding pharmacist, and it's another Friday, and you know what that means. It's another edition of 483 Fridays. That means we're going to go into a 483 and look at, to try to help us understand and learn more about compliance within sterile compounding. So let's jump right in. The learning objectives for today's 483. By the end of this, you should be able to discuss the use of USP-graded ingredients in pharmaceutical preparations and the importance of it, and explain what prompted the FD&C Act of 1938 to be enacted. So in this week's 43, we're going to be talking about the use of ungraded ingredients in pharmaceutical preparations. First, I'd like to show you the 43 where this was done, and then we'll look at a case where non-USP ingredients led to real issues in patients where the drug product contained non-USP graded ingredients. And this was a recent case, actually. So let's take a look at the first 483. It says non-pharmaceutical grade component everclear 95% grain alcohol is used in the formulation of 19 non-sterile drug products, i.e. topical creams used to treat severe muscular pain. Specifically, your firm used everclear 95% grain alcohol to produce approximately 200 prescriptions made in non-sterile drug production from 2012 to 2019. Ketoprofen 5% gel was prepared using everclear 95% grain alcohol for a total of, it's actually crossed out, a total of so many times from 2012 to 2019. It's used as a component in over blank different non-sterile drug formulations. Your firm prepared blank using everclear 95% grain alcohol in blank prescriptions from 2012 to 2019. From 2013 to 2019, your firm formulated blank prescriptions of a cream, ultracaine, benzocaine 20%, lidocaine 8%, tetracaine 4%, ibuprofen 2%, bupivacaine 0.5% that used everclear 95% grain alcohol. There is no evidence that everclear 95% grain alcohol used to produce creams and liquid non-sterile drug products is of an appropriate quality for its intended use. So that's the 43. That's everything it says in observation 1. In this 43, it looks like the use of grain alcohol is used to make several products. Of course, using everclear 95% is not a USP-graded alcohol and is actually meant to be for consumption, but not as a pharmaceutical ingredient. So what's the difference of whether something is USP-graded and a substance that doesn't carry the same grading? First, USP-graded ingredients are tested for a number of things, including the stability of the ingredient itself. This is the major difference between those ingredients that carry the USP grading and those do not. First, is there such a product that exists for this in pharmacy? Are there USP-graded ethanols that could have been used in this product? And the answer to that is yes. There is, in fact, a USP monograph for ethanol, which typically means that alcohol USP can be found in the market that's been tested for impurities and degradation products. So the easiest way to solve this issue for this pharmacy is to simply use USP-graded 200 proof alcohol. I would like to note that in this particular 483, it's noted that the pharmacy is a producer of non-sterile drug products. So one thing I can say is that all their products were being used for topical use and not for consumption orally or intravenously or any kind of parenteral use. Nonetheless, the alcohol was used, the alcohol used was not USP graded. So the point that the final preparation wasn't consumed orally or given by injection still doesn't really necessarily matter, to be honest. The next question in my mind, if there is no substitute for something that is intended to be a laboratory grade, is there a way to qualify this ingredient for use in your drug product? I would say yes. However, much research and testing would need to be done prior to its use. And how to go about doing that goes beyond what this episode will cover, but the possibility is there. Next, let's look at a scenario where using a non-USP graded ingredient was used in injection and actually caused harm to the patient. And this is actually a recent event that happened. In 2017, there were 2 infusions of curcumin compounded with non-USP graded polyethylene glycol 40 castor oil. As a result, when these injections were administered, patients had hypersensitivity reactions to the IV product. Note that in this preparation, it actually was administered intravenously, so this was supposed to be a sterile product. So what happened to these patients and why? The FDA reports on March 10th, 2017, the United States FDA received an adverse event report concerning a 30-year-old female patient who experienced cardiac arrest after IV administration of a curcumin emulsion product. The patient reportedly had a history of allergies and was being treated for eczema by a naturopathic doctor. Within minutes of starting the infusion, the patient became pulseless and required CPR. The patient suffered anoxic or depleted oxygen brain injury and subsequently died. An adverse reaction to infused curcumin solution was identified as cause of death by the local authorities. FDA investigates 2 serious adverse events associated with compounded curcumin emulsion product for injection. In the second case, where this drug was administered, the FDA reports on May 1st, 2017, FDA received an adverse event report concerning a 71-year-old male who developed a hypersensitivity reaction after IV administration of compounded curcumin emulsion product. The patient had a history of allergies and was being treated for thrombocytopenia, or a low platelet count, at a holistic health center. According to the information FDA received from the center, within minutes of starting the infusion, the patient developed a cough, arrhythmia, or skin reddening. Diphenhydramine and antihistamine was administered. However, symptoms escalated to include shortness of breath, itching, and hypotension or low blood pressure. The patient was treated with IV epinephrine and transferred to a nearby emergency room where he was treated and then released. What's particularly interesting about this injection is that the ungraded PEG or polyethylene glycol 40 castor oil sort of has a history with the FDA. In 1937, a sulfanilamide elixir was compounded using diethylene glycol. Diethylene glycol, or DEG, was used as a solvent to dissolve the sulfanilamide in an antibiotic. Diethylene glycol is now known to cause kidney failure in patients. As a result of that disaster in 1937, over 100 people in 15 states died as far east as Virginia and as far west as California. Diethylene glycol, while it's a great solvent, is normally used as antifreeze, a deadly poison. Unfortunately, prior to making this oral preparation of sulfanilamide, there were no studies conducted for toxicity, and at the time, the food and drug laws just did not exist. The FDA responded to this disaster with the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938, which established quality standards for food, drugs, medical devices, and cosmetics manufactured and sold in the United States. So back to our original 483. What you may or may not know about polyethylene glycol is that one of its degradation products is diethylene glycol. Perhaps if the PEG castor oil was USP graded, or if studies were done prior to dispensing the curcumin injection, the fatality and injury as a result of the injection would never have occurred. Diethylene glycol is a known manufacturing impurity in polyethylene glycol. What's more is that it was found that the polyethylene glycol was used to make this curcumin injection that had the labeling of caution for manufacturing or laboratory use only. Unfortunately, to date, there is no USP monograph for PEG 40 castor oil. But the point, again, I just want to make is that this pharmacy was using a known ingredient that was supposed to be only used for manufacturing or laboratory use only. So I cannot stress this enough. Using USP-graded ingredients is absolutely paramount to compounding a safe and effective product for your patients. If you have the resources to do studies on the individual ingredients that may not have a grade, then it's possible that you're able to show that the use of such an ingredient is safe to be used in your preparation. It's also important to know the history of the FDA and why some of the laws that have been enacted over the past 100 or so years have been enacted. The last thing I'll say is that just because something can be compounded doesn't always mean it should be compounded. Be sure to do your research on any of the ingredients you're using in the compounding of your preparations. So that's all I got for this week. I hope this is eye-opening for you, and we'll get another episode out on Tuesday that I think is also going to be a really good episode. So tune in for that on Tuesday. Until then, keep raising the bar.
The Pharmacy Inspection Podcast is powered by LyceumCE.com, where you can find engaging video-based continuing education programs, as well as a social community for pharmacists and technicians. Join one of the discussion groups or forums and post your questions to the group. Lyceum CE, where fun CE gets done.